right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome, welcome. Give me just a moment. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, hello. I am not a sister, but I welcome the salams. How are you? All right, give me just a moment. We are getting everything established, ready, set up. I gotta get logged in on this thing. Oh my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. We have so many things. I need to get more efficient at setting up the stream. Yes, okay, wonderful. So we have this here. Yeah, no worries. I appreciate it. Glad to hear you're doing well. All right. I can spell. 1 second. Shalit. There we go. Very glittery person. All right, we're gonna go ahead and start muting people right away. Alrighty. And we'll get to reading the book in just a moment. I just have to finish getting all the little multi-streaming, really has, so many different buttons I have to press. Okay, just about getting to the end of it. I just have to pull up, the last thing is pulling up YouTube so that I can see, so that I can see the YouTube chat. And that will be, inshallah, the last thing. All right. We've got the YouTube chat pulled up. We have TikTok. We have Twitch. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, hello. Oh, yes, Adam. So I do not currently have access to my Discord. Discord requires you to now verify with a phone number. And I have a personal Discord that I use for like my personal real person life. And I now have a, Your Queer Muslim Cousin Discord. And before it had not required me to verify that with a phone number. So I was hopping and bopping along. And now it says you have to verify it with a phone number. Well, my phone number is already attached to my real person account. So until or unless I figure out a way around that, I don't have access to my Discord. So I'm so sorry. I'm not ignoring you. I can't. Yeah, I don't. Maybe it's only in the U.S. I don't know. According to them, it's so that bots can't get through, and I'm like, whatever. Nope. It's all the accounts, all of the accounts. Also, hi, Maldo. All right, I am going to open this. Oh, it's okay. It's okay, buddy. Sorry, scared the kitty. No, no, it's okay. It's just Baba Soda. I have a Coke float that is my drink for today because guess what? Your boy has straws back. Straws. Bonsoir, Bobby. Bonsoir. Yes, sorry for the table shaking. I have my hand on the table while I'm trying to pet him to make sure he's not freaking out. Oh, interesting. I haven't tried it, but we'll get around to it. Am I doing an Islam Q&A? Not exactly. I am going to be reading a book called Living Out Islam. By the way, we've got a dulce de leche ice cream and a caffeine-free Diet Coke. Wish it was a caffeine-free regular Coke, but it is what it is. Couldn't find any of those in the store. So we're going to be reading Living Out Islam, Voices of Gay, Lesbian, and Transgender Muslims, and doing Q&As along that topic. What headphones are those, and can you change the colors? So these are their Red Dragon is the brand. I got them like 5 or 6 years ago. I cannot change the colors. They are stuck on rainbow, but I can keep it on swirly, or I can make it static, or I can turn them off if I need to be in like boring mode. But I usually keep it on swirly because that's fun. Do I have a partner? I have a wife. I have my beautiful wife on Honey. Can I DM you my question on TikTok then later? Yeah, absolutely. You can always DM me on TikTok. You know, I am a little bit overwhelmed with messages right now. I have a lot of people messaging me, but inshallah, I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. But yes, you're always welcome to DM me. Does the niqab help with wearing headsets? Because usually my glasses are stopping me. Interesting. I mean, my glasses are still here, and I will say, like, the headset does press on the glasses, and, like, it does become painful after a while, but, you know. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Pink. Hello, hello. So now we have our concoction. I only got, like, half of the Coke in, so we'll keep pouring it in as the foam unfoams. But yeah, I guess the niqab doesn't help or hurt. It just is. I never wear glasses while wearing the headset. Well, I have to have glasses to see, otherwise I can't see more than like this far away from me. Was the marriage Islamically recognized? I mean, it was performed by an imam, and I have a nikah, so I guess, you know, depends on what Islamically recognized means to you. Also, hi, Sarah. Hi, hi. All right, so let me put the cap on this Coke so that if I knock it over, it doesn't cause the worst thing in the world. All right, we have our drink, we have our cat, we have all of our chats up. We have me too low on the screen because, once again, your boy needs a booster seat. I will switch back to the kneeling chair just for today, just for y'all. But I am officially tomorrow. My wife also said, here's the thing. I got this kneeling desk chair, not thinking about the fact that your boy has had a knee surgery. Not recently, but, you know, several years ago. And maybe a kneeling chair wouldn't be smart. I was just thinking, you know, I like unconventional desk chairs. I don't like sitting. Maybe this one that's like a kneeling chair would be great. Didn't think about the fact that, like, you know, kneeling for 3 to 4 hours at a time maybe would be bad for me. So I gave my wife my desk chair because she was just sitting on a kitchen chair. Well, guess what? You know, it does hurt my knees. I cannot, you know, sit on it for long periods of time. But I didn't want to ask for my desk chair back from my wife. Excuse me. But today she was just like, hey, do we still have the, like, little tiny wooden kitchen chair that I was sitting on? I'm like, yeah, why? We put it in the attic because it's different from all the other kitchen chairs. We don't need it. But, you know, she's like, I want it back. I don't like this desk chair. I was like, oh, thank God, because I want my chair back. So, alhamdulillah, it all works out. So we'll do a switcheroo tomorrow. But for today, I'll put up with the kneeling chair one more time so that I'm visible and not just like down here, you know. Do I recommend the Clear Quran? I do. I do like the Clear Quran. I think it's a good translation, like as much so as there are good English translations. I like the fact that it comes with footnotes that have context and stuff to say like this verse was revealed during the Battle of Badr, or like this verse, whatever, whatever. Hello, hello, Goose. You made a new friend, mashallah. That's wonderful. Okay, why is only the blonde kitty in the cam? Because he's my Velcro baby, and he's the one who chooses to be in the stream room the most often. I have 2 blonde or orange, or however you want to call them, cats, and then we have the one gray cat, and she doesn't choose to be in here very often. She's very, no, not queer Quran. I wish there was a queer Quran. Maybe someone will write one, inshallah, one day. The, like, translate, or not write, astaghfirullah, translate one. But the Clear, Clear, Clear. He's really cute, yes. Sorry, we gotta mute a few folks. And then we'll get into the reading. What the flag, so the flag, sorry, let me get out of the way of the flag for a moment. Oh, actually, let me adjust the, I didn't realize the camera got knocked up a tiny bit. There we go, now. Oh, and there's a plant in the way. There's a plant literally in the way of the last word. I'm like, wait, why can't you see it? One second. Sorry, I've been doing outside gardening and indoor plant chores all morning, and I didn't realize I had moved something. All right, and oh, other way. Ha. Boom. Queer Muslims were always here. So it's just a reminder to everybody that like this is not a new invention. We were always here from day one. So we are going to be reading Living Out Islam, Voices of Gay, Lesbian, and Trans Muslims. Excuse me, or transgender Muslims. We are on page 190, getting into the conclusion of chapter 5, Forging Minority Alliances. So this is also a Q&A, so we'll hop and bop between book reading and Q&A. Yeah, so if your questions are on topic about LGBTQ issues and Islam and in good faith, then they'll be answered. And if not, you'll be muted, booted, you know, gotten out of here. Yeah, the ones that are, you know, I know everyone's going crazy over the flag. I have this flag on the live stream every single live stream. This is not a new, I mean, technically I guess it's a new setup, but like the flag has been part of the setup since like day one. Like the flag has been in the background of my live stream since I started streaming. So I don't know why everyone's wigging out over the flag today. Y'all are like very funny. Do you think the Quran is the last message just because Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the last prophet? Pretty sure that when Isa returns and defeats the Dajjal, he will give a lot of advice or messages to the final people on earth since they will live in peace until the end. Interesting question. That is kind of beyond the scope of my knowledge. We do believe that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the last prophet. I don't know. That's something I'm going to say with confidence that I cannot speak on with confidence, so I'm not going to. But it's a great question, and I will probably go research it later. Very good question. Aw, love you too, Sleepy Apothecary. That is so sweet of you. I'm lesbian, but my Muslim conservative family doesn't know it. What do I do? Go check out my page. Pinned at the top, I have a 3-part series. Like the first part of the 3-part series with the other 2 in the comments are pinned of like advice for queer Muslims or new queer Muslims. You can ignore the new part. And it, essentially just says, like, first of all, you don't have to do anything about it. So, you are a Muslim Quranist and have faced much adversity, but I accept all sects and walks of life. Oh, mashallah. Curious what happens to LGBT Muslims in the afterlife, do you know? Well, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what happens to people in the afterlife. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can judge on the day of judgment. But as far as what we know from like the Quran and the Sunnah, nothing that doesn't happen to regular Muslims, So anyways, we're going to jump into the book. We are on page 190. If you are following along in your own copy, you can pick up a copy online or you can get it on the Internet Archive. Do you believe that they're sinners? I do not believe that LGBTQ people are inherently sinners. No, I do not. Do I live in a Muslim country? I don't believe in the concept of a Muslim country. That's not a real thing. How Muslim and LGBT? The same way I can chew, same way I can walk and chew gum at the same time. You're just talented like that, What do you think when people say the Quran goes against science? I say they've clearly never read the Quran, because the Quran describes things that were known, that were not known to like scientific minds of the time that we now know in science, like, how embryos are created, like the development of like from zygote to embryo to everything. It describes so many things that would not have been known to an illiterate man in the desert, which is who our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was. Like, the Quran is so full of scientific miracles, and that is one of the things that really led me to believe in the Quran, because like I studied physics in university. Like I have several books that are like science in the Quran, physics in the Quran. Yeah. Oh, there's only 2 genders? Okay. All right. Well, why don't you go back to 3rd grade science class and, do some more research, my friend. All right. Let's get into reading. Oh, hello. Hi, Sage. Hello, hello. All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Conclusion. Gay, lesbian, and transgender Muslim activists appeal for support to others beyond their own community. Activists build bridges with other religious communities who are also minority populations. They also appeal to women's rights organizations to uphold the common struggle that feminists share with them against patriarchal norms, which are enshrined in most religious traditions. This strategy engages with progressive politics in a direct way. It does not merely appeal to the state to protect its minority citizens. It appeals to the common humanity that all citizens share, a common humanity that is not just an abstract political concept, but rather one practically forged through friendships and supporting others when they are in need. Forging minority alliances is one mode of activism used by gay, lesbian, and transgender Muslims. The activities and outlook of those interviewed in this chapter illustrate this mode of forging minority alliances. In this mode, activists articulate common values and threats that unite their minority with other vulnerable groups, such that others advocate their rights as part of a common struggle for justice and well-being. Excuse me. Activists like Faisal, Rashid, and Al-Farouq, who engage in this mode, do not merely appeal to secular state norms, but rather strive to build coalitions among parties and groups at the grassroots level. This strategy depends on personal contacts as well as formal organizational alliances. Its success depends upon the belief that groups with divergent conditions can nonetheless find common ground to support each other. Hello, hello. Hi, Maidenless Jess. Hi, Torkal. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Brain's not working. But yes, I loved the artwork. I loved it so much. Thank you. One of your friends saw you and was like, there's other people like me. No, that's going to make me cry. Yes, that's literally why I do this. Because I had that exact same experience, like, 6 years ago now? And that's what made me join social media and decide to do what I do is I had that experience of going, wait, there's other people like me, and I wanted to be that for people. So why do I support this? Because it's correct. Because it is right and correct. And as Muslims, sorry, I added more soda to the thing and it almost was too much. Wow. Oh my goodness. Because as Muslims, we're commanded to uphold what is right and just, command what is good and forbid what is evil. And that's what I'm doing here. All right, let's mute a few more people. Let's see. Yeah, no worries. Feel free to listen in the background. Feel free. Inshallah, Allah grants me to open a mosque where a non-binary prayer area can be set up. Oh, mashallah, that would be so wonderful. Yeah, more places should have that, because a third space would also be so wonderful for like, I've been to some masajid where they have a third space that's like a cry area. Like if you've ever been to Catholic churches, so many of them have. It's literally just called like the cry area or the cry space or the cry room, where anybody who has like a young child who's just not having it, for whatever reason, that's where they go so that they can still engage in the service, but their child that's making noise is not disturbing everyone else from engaging in the service. And, the masajid has a space that's just like that. And that also could be the space, that's already a third space. That third space could also be for anybody who, doesn't want to be lumped in with the sisters or the brothers. A third space is good for literally everyone. Yeah, it could also be called the family area. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I've seen some places also try to do that same concept of like cry area, but they then segregate it into like, this is the Umi and me area, and then this is the like father and me area. I'm like, literally, why did you need to do that? You just made it harder for yourself where you had to provide 2 extra spaces instead of 1. Why didn't you just provide 1 extra space? Why did you have to make it weird? But for the person who keeps asking, what do you think when people say it? What's the Quran? I already answered that. If you keep asking, I'm just going to mute you for spamming. So, excuse me. All right. Anyways, let me get a sip of this so that it stops freaking me out that it's going to foam over, and then we'll keep reading. Oh, okay. You're fine. I essentially said, like, I think that they're incorrect and that they've never read the Quran, because the Quran actually has the opposite. It proves so many scientific miracles. Like, there are entire books about, like, scientific miracles in the Quran or physics in the Quran. Like, that's one of the things that actually caused me to believe in Islam, was how much, like, proof of science is in the Quran. So, yes, thank you for letting me know, because I figured you were just, I don't know, didn't care, didn't believe me, whatever. So thank you for clarifying. I always appreciate clearing up misunderstandings. But yeah, basically I say, like, if you're saying that, you clearly didn't read it. Yeah, I do get a lot of trolls, and I got a lot of people who it's like, it doesn't matter how often I answer a question, they just don't listen. So, excuse me. Isn't there a thing about having to believe in? Yeah, exactly. You also, like, as a Muslim, you have to follow modern science. Oh no, that's not gonna work. All right, 1 second, because I'm done with having to play this like dangerous game, so I'm just having the last bit of this soda. It's so gross. Sorry, I hate Diet Coke. Give me either regular Coke or Coke Zero, or better yet, a like non-American Coke that's just made with actual cane sugar instead of corn syrup. That's the best. But if I want caffeine free, often the only ones you can find are diet. So, and if I'm using it to make an ice cream float, then, you know, that sugar covers up the taste of the aspartame. Aspartame, I always say aspartame in my head, and then usually I'm able to correct it quickly enough that I say aspartame because I know that's how most people say it. But occasionally, like just now, y'all get to hear the unfiltered version in my head. All right, back to the book. Bismillah. This strategy is most useful when secular political institutions are not strong, or when secular legal rights are not extended to homosexual and transgender people. The interviews in this chapter reveal how this strategy has been used by activists in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada. Anglophone countries developed democratic traditions of quote-unquote soft secularism, where public religiosity is on display in public debate and in election campaigns. This contrasts with the situation in the Netherlands, where democratic institutions are very strong, secularism is boldly assertive, and religious discourse is muted in public debate. In the Netherlands and comparable countries, the Netherlands model may apply as well to continental European countries that inherited Napoleonic traditions. The activist mode of adjusting secular politics promises to bear fruit. But in the United States and Canada, gay, lesbian, and transgender activists cannot place full faith in secular institutions to uphold their legal rights and secure their welfare. This is even truer for the Muslims among them, who often feel marginalized by the persistence of overly Christian rhetoric in public debate. In democracies with soft secularism, activists turn to building alliances with other minority groups to find support and protection in the absence of strong state secularism and legal rights. The two modes of activism, forging minority alliances and adapting secular politics, both focus on political means towards achieving social acceptance. Whether activists opt for one mode or the other, they trust that political advances will get them social acceptance, that social acceptance will secure for them their rights, and that securing their rights is the key to living a happy life. Yet other lesbian, transgender, and gay Muslims doubt this equation. They do not see happiness coming from political rights or social acceptance. They believe instead that happiness comes from individual fulfillment. Individual fulfillment may not come from political and social advances, but it does depend on the development of individual identity. Such activists often see life as a spiritual or psychological journey toward individual fulfillment, and this mode of activism will be explored in the next chapter. This is Living Out Islam. Yes. I'm never sure if it's Ashhadu la ilaha illallah or Ahsadu. Yeah, no, it's Ashhadu. To the best of my knowledge, it's Ashhadu alla ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Not Ashhadu. Ashhadu. And I mean, y'all feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but that is to the best of my understanding. All right, so we're about to start chapter 6. But y'all feel free to come in with questions if you've got them, either about the book or about just general LGBTQ issues in Islam. All right. Chapter 6, Journeying Toward Individual Identity. My heart can take on many forms. For gazelles, a meadow, a cloister for monks, for idols, a sacred ground, Kaaba for the pilgrims, tables of the Torah, scrolls of the Quran. I profess the religion of love. Wherever its caravan turns, along the way, that is my belief, the faith I keep. Ibn Arabi, Tarjuman al-Ashwaq. With these simple but bold words, the Sufi thinker Ibn Arabi sets forth a manifesto of mystical love. His religion is love, and he accepts it in whatever form it may present itself, even if it is unconventional or seemingly heretical. As a Sufi, Ibn Arabi died 1240, argue that Islam is outwardly a religion of rituals and beliefs, but it is inwardly a religion of love. This argument emerges in a most beautiful form in the few couplets from his poetry collection, Tarjuman al-Ashwaq, or Stations of Desire, as ably translated by Michael Sells. These verses form not just a manifesto, but also a song, and many Sufi musicians have set these verses to music. Sufis like Ibn Arabi have interpreted Islam as a spiritual quest. It is a quest to find ways of living in closer and closer intimacy with God's presence in this world and the next. It is a quest that involves social belonging in Sufi orders, but also allows room for individual searching, which might call into question socially accepted norms. Ibn Arabi imagines this quest as a journey in the caravan of lovers. Whichever way the caravan train may twist and turn during the journey, he is confident that the ultimate goal is love. To this alone he is faithful. I profess the religion of love wherever its caravan turns along the way. Oh, no, I made a typo, but I meant if it's pronounced with... Oh, I don't know the difference between those two versions of A. I would have to get onto a Google Translate or something and listen to the difference between the A with the two dots over it and a regular A. So I have not the foggiest. Sorry. You might go take a nap. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Goose, go take a nap if you need to. Absolutely. Muslim activists have much to learn from the Sufi movement. It offers many spiritual and ethical resources in the quest for greater personal... Sorry, I don't know why I'm I feel like I'm lagging. All right, let's start this over. Bismillah. Muslim activists have much to learn from the Sufi movement. It offers many spiritual and ethical resources in the quest for greater personal integrity and spiritual depth, even in the face of social ostracism. Some Sufis were unflinchingly bold in rejecting social conventions for the sake of love. Some lesbian, transgender, and gay activists interviewed for this book were deeply influenced by the Sufi tradition, though few of them claimed actual membership in a Sufi order. Yet these activists often display a mode of activism that can be called journeying toward individual identity. They engage this mode of activism when they hold that the individual journey toward greater self-awareness and personality integration is more important than fidelity to the religious norms of Islam or enacting social change through political means. Some of them explicitly invoke Sufi precedents in describing this spiritual journey, while others refer to the language of counseling and self-help. Whether they articulate their goals in the language of medieval mysticism or modern psychiatry, these activists argue that the essence of Islam is for people to achieve self-knowledge and come to peace with themselves in such a way that they can worship God with integrity, out of love rather than out of fear. Oh, Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Yes, I do enjoy reading to y'all. I hope it's educational and soothing at best, if nothing else. Community organization is only one dimension of the effort of activists who volunteer to build a transnational network of support groups for gay, lesbian, and transgender Muslims. It is an outer dimension that is relatively easy to document. But just as important is the inner dimension of identity formation. It is more subtle and harder to analyze. This is why the interviews in this book focus on the protagonist's life story, family history, religious training, and spiritual experience, rather than solely on their activist work, political positions, and theological views. Excuse me. If it were not for a process of identity formation, these individuals would never have come to play an activist role in such organizations. Further, such organizations function to provide a forum for others to continue the process of honing their personal identity by finding social networks of like-minded people, sharing experiences, overcoming alienation, and expressing solidarity. Identity formation is thus the cause of these support groups' existence and also their practical goal. Activism in support for transgender, lesbian, and gay people is often dismissed as mere quote-unquote identity politics. But this dismissal is too quick. Identity politics is the practical result of identity formation, a complex phenomenon that happens within individuals and between individuals who belong to a group. The introduction to this book provided a detailed discussion of how identity formation involves individual psychology, family relationships, community loyalty, and national belonging. Identity formation is not merely fuel for factionalism. Rather, it is a crucial element of social solidarity, devotional spirituality, and even the quest for wisdom. As Sufi thinkers like Ibn Arabi often say, the one who knows the self knows the Lord. This wise maxim is so influential in Islamic discourses that it is often remembered as a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, or a saying of his intimate follower, Imam Ali. Regardless of the origin of this saying, it is perfectly compatible with Islamic teachings. Excuse me. Indeed, it is the core of the Islamic search for wisdom, whether undertaken through Sufi mysticism, Neoplatonic philosophy, or ascetic devotion. This saying reveals that identity formation is the key to worshiping God sincerely. One needs to know the self deeply in all its conditions, limitations, and transcendental potential before one can really know God. And conversely, the spiritual quest to know and worship God is the means to gain authentic knowledge of the self. The support groups for lesbian, gay, and transgender Muslims documented in this book aim to provide a secure space in which members can get to know themselves, gain confidence to be themselves, and learn to worship in sincerity. Can you repeat the saying? Sure. The one who knows the self knows the Lord. The one who knows the self knows the Lord. Shalom salam. Hello, hello. Hi, Mateo. Any queer Muslim Discord? I do not have a Discord yet, simply because I am one person and I am barely keeping up with streaming 4 days a week and posting 3 times a day on weekdays and, trying to make things. I'm trying to get I'm totally blanking on the name for it. A Substack going. I just simply don't have the capacity to also have a Discord at this point, but inshallah eventually. But there are tons of queer Muslim Discords, just not one that I personally have. And the ones that I'm a part of, there are enough of them that do not discuss on social media rules that I don't feel comfortable talking about any of them because I can't remember which specific ones do and don't. So I would just say go look up queer Muslim Discords and see what you find. And Pink, you were saying, I have a question, but it's not necessarily about queerness in Islam. What do you think of a surah that I've recently been thinking about? Yeah, inshallah. I pray that you do find. I'm not trying to gatekeep resources. I'm just trying to not lose resources myself or compromise anybody's boundaries. And inshallah, one day I'd love to have a Discord. I know how much maintenance running a Discord server is because I have had one in the past. And it's a lot. And I just simply don't have the capacity right now. But you were, bye-bye. Yes, you were saying something about a specific surah, Pink. Yeah. Feel free to throw it in there, but we can look up the surah. Until then, we'll keep reading. Excuse me. Before delving into the spiritual meaning of identity formation, we need to comprehend it as a complex process. The activists interviewed here help us to appreciate the complexity of identity formation. Identities form over time on a number of different levels, from individual to family to community to nation. But one could argue that the basis for identity is the level of individual psyche. Such an identity forms as one comes to understand the elements of one's own inner disposition, psychological potential, resources, and limitations. This is a process that many of the activists here speak about as coming to know one's quote-unquote inner self, discovering one's quote-unquote true self, or growing into one's quote-unquote own soul. These images are often posed against a false self that is displayed to others and has been forced upon one by family and community, such that the inner self takes on actuality only in conflict with one's social circle and against pressure to conform to its expectations. For transgender, lesbian, and gay Muslims, this element of conflict may be more critical than for heterosexual Muslims. This is because crucial elements of their self, elements of sexual orientation or gender identity, are silenced or suppressed by family expectations and community norms, to the extent that discovering, exploring, and accepting these elements of one's personality into one's identity becomes fraught with danger. The importance of the individual psyche in identity formation should not overshadow the factors of familial relations, religious community, and national belonging. Earlier chapters focused more intently on activist engagement with religion, chapters 1 and 3, family, chapter 2, national legal codes, chapter 4, and political alliances, chapter 5. In contrast, this chapter will focus on activists who display the strategy of journeying towards individual identity. These activists tend to doubt the efficacy of brash political activism, whether it is through secular norms or religious ideals. They also doubt whether it is worthwhile to compromise with social custom and family ties. If they engage in Islamic practices, it is not out of a sense of conformity with society or solidarity with family, but rather because they feel that Islamic rituals can further their individual journey toward greater spiritual or psychological strength. This chapter presents the voices of two activists who appeal to this strategy of focusing on a journey toward individual identity. Can you read my message Twitch did censor? Did you send something that Twitch sent? I've just seen your things about the Arabic dialect and then Quran as the last message. Yeah, I'm sorry, Adam. Surah 262. Okay, all right, so before we get into Aziz, Advocate for Actualization, before we get into that, let's pause for a minute and see if we are able to discuss 262 or whether that's going to be beyond my scope of knowledge, because I am always willing to admit when something is beyond my scope of knowledge. But let's check out. Hello, hello. Hi, Ivorsla. Was here before and I'm glad here now to listen while I do some work. Yeah, I remember you. Glad you're able to be here and listen. All right, so 262. Yeah, I haven't seen anything that you've said specifically about, like, what's your question about Surah Al-Baqarah, Ayah 62, but we're navigating to it right now on Quran.com, just so I can, have it pulled up easily. Not that I couldn't just go pull from the stack of Qurans behind me, but, Ooh, maybe I should because it's tanking my stream. What are my thoughts on the surah? Okay, all right. So, A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Indeed, the believers, Jews, Christians, and Sabians, whoever truly believes in Allah and the last day and does good, will have their reward with their Lord, and there will be no fear for them, nor will they grieve. So I actually was just reading something about this, about how do you talk to your kids, or how do you talk to people who ask is Islam really the only way? Basically do all non-Muslims go to hell, go to Jahannam, however you want to if you want to say it in English or in Arabi, means the same thing. And like, how do you reconcile that with kind of the modern Western sort of take of like, oh, but like, wouldn't it be nice if everybody, went to heaven eventually? Because how could Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemn a good person? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, this is my sibling or my neighbor or somebody, and like, I know them, they're a good person. Just because they're not Muslim, it's not fair that they would go to hell just for not being Muslim. And I totally, like, on an emotional level, I totally get that. I totally get that. Like, I'm a convert. My entire family is not Muslim. My father died as a non-Muslim, and that is still something that like I cry over all the time, even despite the fact that like my father abused me and I did not have a great relationship with him, but he was still my father, and it still hurts to think that like I don't know his fate in the akhirah. Not that I would know his fate if he was Muslim, but I would feel a little bit more secure. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Malik. Hi. Good to see you. But yeah, so like anybody, but especially like any other convert, yeah, I struggle with the thought of just because quote unquote like someone's not Muslim, that they would be condemned. But ultimately, we are not the judge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the judge. They are the only judge. They are the best of judges. We don't know what's going to happen on the day of judgment in terms of who's going to be judged on exactly what criteria. Like, we know some things. We know some things we have been told, but ultimately we don't know. And we are told that we cannot judge individuals. We can only judge religions or ideologies. So we can say, yes, Islam is the only true religion, right? We can say that, like, yes, I believe that Islam is the truth and that it is not right to follow other religions. You cannot say, you as an individual person, if you don't follow Islam, you will go to hell. You don't know that. You do not know. You are not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are not the judge. You have no idea what that person is going to be judged upon on the day of judgment. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that. So that's one thing. I believe it's a hadith, so I haven't done the deep dive that I need to be able to securely quote this. So take it with a massive grain of salt, as I say, take all hadiths with. But like that there is a hadith about two people, and one of them was not Muslim and one of them was, and the Muslim one kept getting so frustrated over and over and over with the non-Muslim one that finally he said, like, basically you will be condemned and cursed on the day of judgment, because of your non-Muslimness or because of your actions or something. I'm wildly paraphrasing here. Excuse me. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, because of that, you will be cursed on the day of judgment. And this person will be given all of your good deeds, because who are you to issue a judgment? And so we are given that example of, you absolutely cannot judge people. You cannot issue any kind of proclamation. Like, everyone who comes in my chat essentially and says, like, you will burn in hell on the day of judgment, you kufar, you are directly violating a commandment of Islam. You cannot proclaim to know what will happen to somebody on the day of judgment. You cannot proclaim to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do to somebody. You cannot proclaim to know where somebody will end up in the akhirah, because with the exception of, the couple of uh, companions of, the couple of Sahaba who, our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said he received knowledge that they would go to Jannah. And even that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could decide differently because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all powerful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of judges. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. So there is no, there is no knowing what will happen to somebody or who will be judged in what way. And the other part of this surah, the believers, Jews, Christians, and Sabians, whoever truly believes in Allah on the last day and does good will have their reward with their Lord. Another way that this verse can and often is interpreted by other scholars and thinkers is that people would worry saying that well, anybody, so does this mean that anybody who did not receive the message of Islam before Islam, does that mean that all of those billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of people before, that existed on earth before Islam, are they all condemned because they never got the opportunity to hear the message of Islam? And that, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. This verse was sent as a comfort about that, to say no, listen, anybody who has not received the message of Islam, Jews, Christians, Sabians, anybody, even outside of those categories, anybody who truly believes in Allah and the last day and does good, anybody who meets the criteria that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set up that we do not know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has their own criteria that they will judge people on who never received the message of Islam and never received it in a proper way. You can even say that hey, somebody who's living in let's say a very deeply conservative area of the world, whether United States or elsewhere, and who only ever hears about Islam as terrorism, right? They just watch Fox News or whatever your national equivalent of that is, and only ever hears about, Islam as scary terrorist people. They've not properly received the message of Islam. And so you could even say that hey, they're not going to be held accountable for not becoming Muslim, for not accepting the message of Islam, quote unquote, because they were not ever properly actually given the message of Islam. They're not actually disbelievers, because in order to disbelieve in something, you have to have been presented it and know that it is the truth and reject it anyways. So all of that to say, this verse can also be interpreted as, excuse me, anybody who, to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has their own criteria for judging people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has their own criteria for judging people who have not received the message of Islam or who never had the opportunity to receive the message of Islam. And that, they're comforting anybody who would say oh, well, what about all of the Jewish people who, were faithful and believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the last day and followed all the Jewish commandments before Islam was ever revealed? That's not fair to them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying yeah, obviously I am the most just. Do you think that I would not be just and be merciful? They have their own criteria that they will be judged upon. So the audacity of people to judge is completely missing the entire point of Haya and Islam. Yeah, exactly. Anybody who comes in and says I know the state, you can know the external state of somebody. You can see if they, when it's time, if you live with somebody, you can see if they pray the 5 prayers or not, or you can see if they eat pork or not, or if you live in a quote unquote Muslim country, which doesn't really exist, but if you live in a country where on your ID, it might say Muslim or Christian or something, because some countries do operate that way, then you might know externally if somebody labels themselves a Muslim. But you never actually know the internal state of somebody. Somebody might be the most like pious appearing person at the masjid, and on the day of judgment, it turns out that they received their book in their left hand and they're the biggest kuffar that ever existed. Even though they called like maybe they were the muzayin at their masjid, you know? And you could have somebody who from the outside, maybe they look like the biggest, kafir like ever, and they receive their book in their right hand and they go straight to Jannah with like the quickest walk across the bridge ever. And, because according to the criteria that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set for them, they never received the message of Islam properly, and they were a good person and they fulfilled whatever the criteria was for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to judge them. We have no idea, and it is not our place. We are not the ones to judge. And it is absolutely like beyond the height of arrogance to say that like I can look at a person and know what their fate is going to be on the day of judgment. And it always boggles my mind when somebody comes into my or anybody else's comment section and says like, oh yeah, you are going to be X on the day of judgment. How do you know that? Are you Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So, anyways, that's usually what I think of when I get to this ayah. And there's I mean, we could dig even more into the tafsir. Like whoever truly believes in Allah and the last day and does good. There was something else I was thinking of. There was like one other thing that I couldn't. I lost it. There was one other thing that I can't remember now that I was thinking of when it comes to this verse that was it was talking about pre-Islamic people. It was talking about anybody who doesn't receive the message properly. Oh, I almost have it. It's oh, and that so if you're talking about this is a tricky topic, and I haven't fully formed my ideas on it. So again, take it with, huge grain of salt. One second here. Sorry, we had to mute somebody on YouTube for the first time, and I had to figure out how to do that. I did not know how to do that on YouTube. That's interesting. Anyways, so take this one with a huge grain of salt, because I'm still kind of percolating and trying to think of exactly how to put this together and whether or not I fully believe it's true. But a way you could interpret this, and not just this specific verse, but kind of the concept of belief in Islam overall, is that in order to be a true disbeliever, like an apostate, like a kafir in Islam, you have to believe and then not follow. Because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they will not judge people based on, that like if you believe and do good deeds, if you're a good person, jazakallah khair, Mercury, may Allah reward you. That, essentially if there are criteria that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge people on if they did not receive the message of Islam properly, things like that, where there's the potential for, them to be forgiven essentially for the potential sin of not being Muslim. And okay, I'm trying to think of how exactly to put this together. How will you be held accountable for a lack of belief? Because truly being a kafir is not believing. It is believing and then rejecting the truth. It is recognizing that Islam is the truth and then choosing not to follow it anyways. That is why being a kafir or being an apostate is such a big deal, is because you believed in the truth of Islam. You found it to be the truth, and then you decided not to follow it anyways. That is why that's such a huge deal. Versus anyone who never found it to be the truth, or never found it compelling, or was never convinced, they never believed in the first place. So are they a disbeliever in that Islamic sense, where they know it to be the truth and yet they reject it? No, because they never believed. And so if we say that the people who will not be forgiven are the kafirs, that is the one sin that cannot be forgiven. If we know that like every sin can be forgiven in the akhirah, over time you can like work it off essentially, except for the sin of apostasy, the sin of shirk, the sin of believing in other gods besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sin of knowing that Islam is the truth and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one only God, but rejecting that anyways. Then if we take that as a like logical, legal, whatever premise, I would argue very, very, very few people will actually be condemned. Because the majority of people who are practicing other forms of worship, the majority of people who are not Muslim, are not doing so out of believing in Islam and deciding to reject it anyways because it's too much work or this or that or whatever. They are not rejecting it for some reason besides that they don't believe in it. They don't believe in it. They genuinely, they believe in something else, or they just don't believe in Islam. And therefore, they are not disbelievers in that they accept Islam as the truth and they reject following it. They just simply don't believe. And therefore, will they be held accountable? Will they... How can you hold someone accountable for not believing, for not having been convinced, for not having heard the right arguments, for this, that, and the other, Or will you be treated similarly to, like it says in the Jews, Christians, Sabians, all these people who are also not Muslim, but you'll be judged according to these other set of criteria that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, and you'll be essentially judged on like, were you a good person or not? So again, I am still percolating on this. I still need to do so much research in terms of finding Quran verses and doing more research to like really ground myself and back this up. But it's something that I've been percolating on for a while of if the essence of being a true kafir in Islam is not just disbelief, not just, oh, I don't believe in it, but I do believe in it. I know Islam to be the truth, and I choose to reject it anyways. If that's actually what a kafir is, then there are very, very, very few disbelievers or kafirs ever. And there are very, very, very few people who will ever go to Jahannam permanently. If we believe that that's the only type of person that goes to Jahannam permanently. So, just throwing that out there as food for thought. You know, especially for any fellow converts who kind of struggle with that whole, what will happen to all of my loved ones who die as non-Muslims? Will I ever see, like, ultimately we don't know. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Sorry, this is driving me nuts that this is like uneven. Which finger? Okay. It's also because like my camera is flipped, obviously, like most cameras are. But it makes it so difficult for me to fix my own stuff because I can't just like look at the camera and be like, I know which side to pull up. Anyways, I have to do way more research on that. But that was the other thing that like that ayah makes me think of. Do I think anti-Trinitarians are Muslims? I understand like what the word Trinity means, and I know what the prefix anti means. So I can put together anti-Trinitarian would mean like somebody who doesn't believe in the Trinity. But I don't actually know necessarily what you're gonna have to be like, what is an anti-Trinitarian? And yes, yeah, Islam exists. Like we do claim Moses, you know, or Musa as a Muslim. We claim even like all the way back to Adam as a Muslim. So yeah, it just wasn't called Islam. And yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. We also know that like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always says like their mercy will exceed their wrath, and that is something we can depend upon. So even though we don't have all of the answers, we also know the axioms we can rely upon, such as that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful, the most just. And that's what we can count on. Do I usually wear the niqab? I do. Yep, I wear the niqab every day. I've been a full-time niqabi for coming up on 4, I think it's 4 years now. I'll have to go back and look, but I think it's 3.5 because we're in like August now. So come springtime, it'll be 4 years. So yeah, like 3.5 years now. But I've been wearing it like part-time for like 5 years now. Yeah, but I put it on like full time, about 3.5 years. MashaAllah, I'm a hijabi, but I would love to progress to the jilbab someday. Oh, MashaAllah. Yeah, inshallah, one day, little steps at a time. Yeah, I don't wear jilbab 24/7. Well, I mean, I don't wear anything 24/7, but I do wear jilbabs most of the time. I do wear the occasional abaya, and like if I'm out gardening or something in my own like, you know, personal yard, I will occasionally throw on like some big baggy overalls or something. But I would say at this point my wardrobe is, I don't know, 90% jilbab, abaya, big flowy dress or skirt of some kind. Just because that's what I like wearing, honestly. It was not out of an attempt to be like, I'm going to be a jilbab only person. It was literally just, I gravitated towards what I was comfortable in, and then I woke up one day and went, I don't own a single pair of pants anymore. Like, I realized that when I moved in with my wife and I was having to, like, you know, go through all my clothing, and I went, oh my gosh. Other than my, like, work clothes, because I did have like a specific set of work clothes that did include a couple of pairs of baggy pants. But like for my personal clothes, I did not own a single pair of pants. And I went, I probably should have at least one pair, just like in case of something. But, you know, um, when you give yourself permission to only wear what you want, sometimes you make discoveries. Anti-Trinitarians don't really exist anymore since most people have heard about Islam, but they existed from the 4th all the way to the 16th century in Europe, and they saw Isa as the last prophet, but not as God or the Son of God. And most of them did not really know about Islam. Interesting. Okay, so anti-Trinitarians were closer to what we might consider like a true Christian or like a pure Christian, uncorrupted, of they just didn't take Islam as like the next thing or whatever, but they had not corrupted it to being that Isa was, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or astaghfirullah, like a child of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You think your parents do count as kafirs because how can they still be afraid of Islam when their son is a Muslim? Well, I mean, it depends on their environment, you know, like what other messages are they receiving, and you know, we don't know what's in people's hearts. Oh, thank you, Mercury. Yes, yeah. If you want to support the live, you can tap the screen if you're on TikTok, on YouTube. I guess you could like it. I don't really know on YouTube necessarily what supports it. And if you're on Twitch, if you are not subscribed, you can subscribe. That is actually the best possible way to support the live stream, is to join us here on Twitch and subscribe. That will actually help pay for the CPU upgrade I'm trying to make so that we can get back to playing Sky for our video game days on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But just y'all being here is amazing and wonderful and support enough. So jazakallah khair to everyone. I appreciate it. All right, let's get back to the book, because we've got about 40 minutes left in the stream. Also, I am thinking of, not this Monday, because I've had a class on Monday nights, but the class is ending, which is why I'm thinking of starting this. I am thinking of potentially starting a like short mini, like 1 hour max Quran reading stream on Monday nights. So let me know if y'all would have interest in that. Like, let me know in like the TikTok and YouTube comments on stuff. You know, if that sounds interesting to y'all, because I did like a teeny tiny, maybe I think it was only like less than 30 minutes of that on Friday, and I really enjoyed it. And it would essentially be like, I'm not even talking to y'all. I'm not reading the comments. Nothing. It's just reading Quran. I don't say reciting because it wouldn't be in Arabic. It would just be in English. But yeah, I don't know. Fellow queer Muslim Maddie posted some videos of them reading Quran in English, and I don't know. I was just very inspired of like, you know, that sounds really nice. So if there's any interest in that, I might start doing that on Monday nights for maybe like an hour. Not this Monday, not tonight. So, okay. All right. Page 196 for anyone who's reading in theirs. You'd pop in. Nice. Yeah. And I mean, nobody has to be consistent. I just mean like, I don't know, generally gauging the interest. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Aziz, advocate for actualization. Aziz is a core member of the Inner Circle in South Africa. He runs its psychological counseling service and is a professional psychiatrist with an advanced medical degree. He is an excellent example of a gay Muslim whose mode of activism focuses on a journey toward individual identity. He does not see himself as an activist, but rather as a seeker, healer, and counselor. Yet these activities form an important component of the activism of support groups for transgender, lesbian, and gay Muslims. Aziz grew up as a homosexual man in the quote-unquote Indian Muslim community in Johannesburg. Indian Muslims occupy a distinct place within the spectrum of race, ethnicity, and religion in South Africa, and youth from this community grow up in a deeply patriarchal community. Indian Muslims import imams from Pakistan and India who have been buffered for modernization rather than training South African Muslims to run their religious institutions. The fundamentalist Tabligh, excuse me, the fundamentalist Tabligh Jamaat movement is very influential in the Indian Muslim community in South Africa, and it aggressively reinforces patriarchal values. Yeah, inshallah, I'd love to see you with a big book collection. And my pronouns are they, them for anybody who, anybody who needs them. Thank you for asking, Adam. In addition, the Indian Muslim community in South Africa excels in business while being forced into an insular pocket of society by apartheid. So marriages within the community are often arranged to enhance a family's business, putting great pressure on the youth to repress their sexual identity and romantic desires, whether they are homosexual or heterosexual. While growing up in a tight-knit Indian Muslim neighborhood in Johannesburg, Aziz experienced these pressures while also benefiting from the opportunities they afforded him. He is the son of a successful businessman. He recalls, "My dad's idea was that you are the only son in the family, so you will go and study medicine, become a doctor, and make our family very proud." At university at age 19, he switched his field to psychology. This is hard to say, but I think I was trying to search for answers for myself. I wanted to understand myself better and understand my own identity better as well. It was something that nobody in the Indian community ever entertained doing, so I think I also wanted to be different. I also wanted to defy my father. His intense focus on education helped Aziz to suppress any thought of being gay, though he knew from a young age that he was different and unusual. I knew I didn't think like other children. I was quite a high achiever in school, but I had no idea that I was gay at all. I think it was not until I got into my honors course that I really grappled with my identity. All through my life, I had a subconscious notion that I might be, but I only really started to grapple with it when we were doing a course on counseling gay people. This course in psychotherapy forced him to confront what he had for so long repressed. To his colleagues at university, he tried to prove that he was heterosexual by dating 3 different women during his student years before ever having sexual or romantic contact with a man. Yet the topic came up in class and he could not shy away from it. I think that is when it really struck me, when it really dawned upon me that this is potentially who I really am. His education, through which Aziz had avoided confronting his sexual orientation, led him to unexpectedly confront the issue head on. Although these developments were playing out in the field of secular education, for Aziz they were intimately related to his religious tradition. Aziz's family life was deeply religious, but insisted on both secular and Islamic education. Having been brought up in a very conservative Muslim home, I went to the madrasa classes after school every day. My father insisted that I read the Quran and learn it by heart to become a hafiz. Aziz took to basic religious education enthusiastically, and as he was finishing high school, he faced a hard decision. Whether to attend university to prepare for a secular career or to attend an institute of higher Islamic learning and become an imam, a mufti, or other religious specialist by attending a Dar al-Ulum academy. Aziz's father harbored unfulfilled urges to become an imam and thwarted desires to become a doctor, but was forced by apartheid policies to deal in business. So both of these goals were imposed upon Aziz as the only son. He was expected to both memorize the Quran by attending an Islamic academy and also become a medical doctor by studying at a secular university. So my dad wanted the best of both worlds. I don't think those were my dreams. Those were his dreams. Despite that, I did have a strong interest in religious instruction and did very well in madrasa. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I was always plagued by questions about religion. His father pushed him to attend university to become a doctor and to also memorize the entire Quran in preparation for religious leadership. It was too much pressure, and Aziz opted for university and eventually rejected his father's insistence that he become a medical doctor. Years later, Aziz was able to return to the study of religion through his clinical work in psychotherapy and took on a leadership role in a religious community through his work with the Inner Circle, but through a path which his father could never accept. Excuse me. Aziz's mother might have had more sympathy with the choices he made
if she had not passed away at a critical moment in his growth. In Aziz's life, his mother represented a kind of Islamic spirituality that had a deep understanding of human nature and allowed all dogmas to be questioned in a caring way. Losing her was therefore very difficult for him and caused a crisis of faith. I had a much closer bond with my mom than with my dad. I just think she would have accepted me and not had any issues about it, and that would have made my coming out much easier if she had been around. His mother passed away when Aziz was 20, and he began a long process of coming out, first to himself and then to his family. Perhaps if my dad had my mom around as I came out as gay, it would have made it easier for him to deal with the issue and not wait 10 years to be able to accept the whole situation. Unlike the teachers at his madrasa and unlike his father, Aziz's mother was not troubled by difficult questions, and she did not see them as challenging her authority. Her untimely death pushed Aziz to deepen his faith, speak more openly with his sole surviving parent, and take greater risks in life. Having to deal with her death was very difficult. Coming to terms with it was tough, but that is one of the things that made me come out of my shell, made me realize that I must deal with it, homosexuality. But at that time, I was very angry. I was very angry with God. How could he do this to me? How could he just cut the umbilical cord short? How could he make me go through all of this pain and trauma? The pain and trauma, however, may have saved Aziz's sincerity from being forever submerged in hypocrisy. His troubled reaction to his mother's death closed for him the possibility of attending a Dar al-Ulum Academy for higher religious studies. I think this is why I didn't pursue my Islamic studies and decided to continue in secular university, because I was very angry with God. However, Aziz is very clear that refusing higher religious education was not turning away from God, far from it. I think that if I had gone to the Dar al-Ulum, I would be a Tablighi, a follower of the Tablighi Jamaat, by now, in a sort of remote control way where I didn't have to employ ijtihad or critical reasoning to Islamic jurisprudence. Several friends from Aziz's local community have gone down that path. Many young gay Muslims, before they fully come to grips with their situation, either choose to go to Dar al-Ulum or are forced to attend it by their families. Aziz reflects, I think a lot of them, young gay Muslims who have not come out, had, in an attempt to understand themselves, found themselves in the Dar al-Ulum, and you find a lot of this subtle sexual activity happening, but it is never spoken about. It bothers me that whatever might happen in the Indian community, people just don't want to talk about it. Do not question things. This is just the way it is. Excuse me. Had Aziz attended a Dar al-Ulum Academy, he would have been under great pressure to adopt the Tablighi Jamaat line of thinking and suppress critical questioning. He observes that the Jamiat al-Ulama, the Council of Muslim Theologians of Gothenburg, Johannesburg, that makes doctrinal decisions and encourages uniformity among Muslims in the area, is largely run by the Tablighi Jamaat and imposes patriarchal values in the name of Islam. In this way, Aziz avoided using religion to obscure difficult issues. He did not let Islam become an excuse for not confronting his own personality. After his mother's death, Aziz completed his degree and returned to Johannesburg for his master's degree in clinical psychology. He entered into a gay relationship, completed his studies, earned his doctorate, and started his clinical practice. But Aziz had great difficulty coming out to his father, who resisted any attempt to discuss it. Religion offered him a surprising way to come out. When he was 26, Aziz prepared to go on the Hajj to Mecca with his gay partner, who was also a Muslim. Before going on Hajj, Muslims prepare for death by repaying loans, clarifying issues of inheritance, and asking forgiveness for any trespasses. Aziz decided to invite everyone close to him, including family and friends, to his home for a farewell celebration. I decided that I would invite all my family and also all my gay friends to come over and greet me the night before we were leaving. I got 70 people all in the same place, at the same time, under one roof. I didn't warn anybody about what was going to happen. I thought, you are all just going to have to deal with this. I didn't tell my family that gay friends were coming, and I didn't tell gay friends that my whole family was coming over. Both sides were shell-shocked. I found all the gay guys running into the kitchen. I found them huddled in the pantry saying, his family is here. I thought that the only way I could break this deadlock, I needed to shock my family. I needed them to see that there are gay people out there who exist in this world because they are brought up in a totally shallow way. I thought, they can't kill me because I'm going on Hajj, and neither can they shout at me and scream at me because I'm on the way to Mecca. Going on a real-life spiritual journey, a pilgrimage, offered Aziz a way to start his inward journey as a gay Muslim. After the initial shock, Aziz's family was forced to confront the issue. His 3 younger sisters have fully accepted him as a gay brother, but his elder sister refuses to speak with him. His father has not disowned him, but is still reluctant to speak about the issue. Excuse me. The spiritual journey of the Hajj created an environment in which Aziz could come out to family without causing a conflagration, but it also revealed the limits of flexibility in his Muslim community. While on Hajj, Aziz and his partner were part of a group led by a mufti from South Africa who preached eloquently about forgiveness, humility, and tolerance. Aziz remembers that he used to preach to the pilgrims, "Go back and tell people about the Hajj. Don't judge people. You have to humble yourself, for when you come back from the Hajj, you are going to be a different person." In the context of the Hajj, Aziz and his partner were simply believers. But later, when members of the inner circle gave radio and television interviews on the subject of Islam and homosexuality, the same mufti condemned them and declared them to be unbelievers and said that they should not have a Muslim burial when they die. Aziz was alarmed at what he perceived to be utter hypocrisy on the part of the Islamic cleric. He didn't know at that point in time that we were gay, but the minute he found out one of us is gay, then he is branded out of the fold of Islam. I found that to be quite contradictory. For me, it answered the question that was in my head all along. Will the imams and the Jamiat al-Ulama ever understand the issue of homosexuality in Islam? I don't think they're ready for it. I don't think the clergy are ready to enter into a debate on this issue. This is what is making it so difficult for most Muslim gay people, whether lesbian or male homosexual, to come to terms with their own identity. Excuse me. Right? I would be so scared that, you're going to Saudi that has literally the death penalty for just being gay, not even doing gay things. I would be terrified because all it would take is one person making one call and you would be like, I would be terrified. Not about, oh, what are they going to do to me right now? Not about, oh, they're going to whatever. But just, oh, I'm going to let everyone know that I'm gay right before I go where, like, it's illegal to be gay. Mashallah, I'm glad it worked out for him. I'm grateful that he's safe, but yeah, scary move. Because all it would take is one person deciding to go the extreme route and say, well, we believe that gay people should be stoned or gay people should be, so I'm going to make the call and make sure that happens. And it would happen. So terrifying stuff. What were you saying? Misogyny itself could be argued as shirk in a way. Yeah, absolutely. I was also doing a lot of reading about slavery in Islam because that's a topic that's going around queer Muslim circles right now. And actually a lot of people are in my DMs asking me about that. So I'm trying to make sure I'm as fully educated on the subject as possible. And I've actually changed my mind about several things recently because I had one opinion, but as I've done more research, I've come to some interesting things. But anyways, one of the things that I was learning about is that, because only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, it is considered shirk to call yourself like a king or to call yourself a master, because that's comparing yourself to Like, that's putting yourself at the same station as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which astaghfirullah, like, we are not and we should never do. So yeah, a lot of misogyny is like quite close to, if not fully, shirk. I would agree with that. Yeah, exactly. Treating somebody to be beneath you, like, we were specifically told that no person is better than another on the basis of, skin color or gender or race or this or, nationality, anything except on the strength of their belief. So, yes, you can be a king on earth, but referring to yourself as like the master of other people, or that you yes. I suppose we're talking about the language of referring to yourself as having total dominion over other people. Because there is always the reminder that while you may have responsibilities over other people, or you may have power over other people, you also, at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has more power over you and over all of those people. So even a king, should not call themselves like the ultimate ruler. Like, even a king should not use language like, I am the indomitable ultimate ruler of all of these people, like a dictator shouldn't, a dictator shouldn't exist, because that is not like being just and a good ruler. But like that, any kind of ruler, whether a king or a president or anything, should not refer to themselves as like ultimate leader or anything that implies that they are a like inherent, ultimate, all powerful master, ruler, whatever, because the only being that is like that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes, there's nothing wrong with being a king or being a ruler, but it's about the language that we use to refer to ourselves, that we should be careful to acknowledge that we are not the ultimate anything, and that whatever authority or power or responsibility or rights that we have over somebody else, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always has more over us. That's what it's about. Actually, in Saudi, it's more like a don't ask, don't tell. It's the people you should be scared of. But that's what I mean. That's what I mean. I understand that. I have several queer friends who have been able to go on Hajj, which I disagree with a little bit in terms of like going on Hajj in general at this point. But we don't have time to get into that. But so I'm aware that it's more of like, don't ask, don't tell. But that's what I mean, is that like, imagine announcing that you're gay to a bunch of people. Okay, if any of them are Hajjis, could they not just make a phone call to somebody who's there and like make people aware? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that they would make a phone call to like the government and be like, there's a gay coming in, stop them at the airport. Like, it's more just that, how Muslim communities are interconnected, and a lot of Hajjis make connections while they're on Hajj. That's like a well-known phenomenon, that you make like lifelong friends from around the world. That's kind of the part of the point of Hajj, is to connect you with other different types of Muslims from all walks of life that you never meet. And that like, maybe there's one of if you gather 70 people in a house and you announce to them, hey, I'm gay, by the way, I'm dipping out, I'm going to Saudi. Maybe one of your uncles is a Haji and he makes some call to some person, and like you said, they take you out to the desert. He says, oh, by the way, your Hajj leader, maybe like he knows to make a call. He knows what Hajj package you have. He knows who your like leader, tour guide, whatever is, that leader, tour guide says, oh, we're inviting along an extra person. That extra person is just not a Haji, but you don't know that. Like, we don't need to get into the details of it, but just saying that, like, I'm very grateful that nothing happened to Aziz, because it very easily could have. I don't think that was the smartest decision, but Allahu Anam. Anyways, I'm going to get a drink of water, and then we're going to try and finish up. Do we have time to finish up Aziz's story? We might. We've got like 2.5 pages left. Let me grab a drink of water, and we'll see if, inshallah, we can finish Aziz's story before we have to end the live stream. That's why I always get scared to go to Jordan. Yeah, there's a lot of places like that where it's like, it's not about the government. It's like enacting extrajudicial violence. It's about the people and the fact that, like, the government's just kind of let them. So, oh, sorry. My headphones are becoming very uncomfortable. Okay, Bismillah. When I interviewed Aziz, he was in the 10th year of his clinical practice in Johannesburg. Gay Muslim clients are referred to him by healthcare professionals who know his reputation, or by members of the local Muslim community themselves, when ad hoc solutions to family crisis by Islamic authorities fail. Practices that Muslim authorities see as spiritual healing can leave deep scars and only intensify alienation. Aziz reflects that you can't escape from the reality of the fact that religion shapes who you are, especially as a Muslim. It shapes who you are as a person. I think that it helps me in understanding gay patients in the issues that they deal with. Some of the issues I deal with in therapy are issues of having to reconcile sexuality and religion, and that is the biggest dilemma. Excuse me. Most of my patients who come for therapy come for exactly this reason. They say, I cannot reconcile the two, and therefore I want to do that because I cannot reconcile my sexuality with my religion. He finds that discussing ideas from the progressive Muslim movement can really help his patients, especially the idea that alternative or multiple interpretations of the Quran are valid, so that they do not have to fully accept the moral judgments that their families or communities impose in the name of religion. In this light, Aziz's fusion of personal conviction and professional training is beneficial to many Muslims. He finds the two dimensions of his personality sometimes hard to reconcile, but ultimately each has a role to play in helping others. As a psychotherapist, I am very much a background kind of person. I do a lot of observation and introspection. Rather than being out there and outspoken, I'd be in the background, observing interactions, patterns, ways of relating, noting the kinds of conversations that people are having, and the operational dynamics. I think that makes me take a back seat somewhat by playing the role of a researcher and academic. Rather than an activist, I am more of an advocate. I see my role more as advocacy than activism. Independent of his professional activities, Aziz was an organizing member of the first support group to take shape in Johannesburg, the Gay Muslim Outreach. He was also instrumental in helping that group merge with the Cape Town-based support group, then called Al-Fitra. The resulting reorganization gave rise to the Inner Circle, and Aziz participates avidly in the Johannesburg branch and helps to run their halakha sessions for theological reflection and discussion. Many doctors in the field of psychotherapy have secular training that does not empower them to effectively treat clients for whom religious belief is an integral part of their personality, whether in terms of their own conviction or their family context. This is an especially acute problem for Muslims, who are a minority in South Africa, as the other European and American sites surveyed in this study, where detailed information about Islamic beliefs and practices may not be widely known. In this environment, Aziz finds that he has a crucial role to play. As a secular professional, he upholds medical standards, and as a Muslim believer, he knows intimately the worldview of religious clients and the concerns of their families. He has struggled himself with the questions that they face and can therefore effectively take up the role of guide if they seek him out. Patients come to him of their own volition, often after having been treated by imams or by spiritual healers who, without a psychological theory of sexual orientation, end up causing more damage than good. He notes with alarm that as professional standards change in the field of medicine and social work towards more quote-unquote gay affirmative approaches to therapy in South Africa, imams and other authorities in the Muslim community are outsourcing the cases they confront to spiritual healers from India or Pakistan. They thereby avoid having to confront South African law and modern medical standards. Aziz observes that most gay Muslims are treated by local imams with the amulets and holy water or going to a hakim who would not be from Johannesburg, but rather from India and knows someone in Johannesburg who would invite him. The hakim is a practitioner of Unani medicine, the traditional healing system of Islamic societies derived from the ancient Greek system of balancing the body's humors, analogous to homeopathic medicine in Europe and North America. In this system of Unani cures, the physical and herbal treatment of disease blurs into Ruhani cures of spiritual healing, involving prayers or incantations to remove malevolent spirits and the effect of the evil eye or other supernatural forces. Imams would not refer people to the psychologist, but rather to the hakim, saying, "You need some traditional medicine to cure you and get this devil out of you, to remove this evil spirit that you have." Aziz observes that most of his clients have undergone such rituals before coming for clinical therapy. When people finally get into therapy, they say, "I've been through this whole process, having to read the Quran, recite namaz 5 times a day, drink holy water, wear a tawiz, do whatever one is required to do by the imam and his hakim, but I'm still here and I'm still gay. I'm still attracted to men, so help me to deal with it." What I've helped people to do is accept themselves. That is as far as I can go. I can walk that road with them only so far, but in terms of success, I'm still fighting a battle there. Aziz is still fighting this battle because it is not just a struggle of individual clients, but rather a struggle against the prejudgments of a whole community based upon religious tradition. Yet Aziz avoids heated discussions with Islamic authorities to focus instead on his professional work in clinical counseling. He regularly counsels the sons and daughters of Muslim families who had failed to deal constructively or humanely with social issues and conflicts. When families turn to imams and religious leaders of their communities to help, the issues are usually exacerbated rather than ameliorated. I think that it does have to start at the level of community, family, and friends. But they come back to you and say, the imam says in the Quran, it is not acceptable. So people still place a lot of emphasis on what the imams say, and they even control the minds and hearts of the families, of the mothers, brothers, and sisters who are trying to accept the sexual identity of a person who is gay in the family. In the end, Aziz thought that gradual change in the perceptions of lesbian and gay members of the Muslim community will come by quiet persuasion, the pressure of demographic change, and the breakdown of previous isolation that was enforced by apartheid. It is common people, not religious authorities, who will begin to look at the issue in a more creative light. And it is his duty to help common people, gay Muslims and their family members, to navigate their own paths towards a more integrated personality and a more fulfilling life. I don't believe it's our business to even ask anyone's sexual orientation as this is prying. Absolutely, yeah. But also, here's the thing. I get so frustrated by people who say that, it's fine to be gay, but just you should keep that private. And I go, well, but do you keep being straight private? Because you're allowed to talk about, your aspirations to marry somebody. You're allowed to talk about your aspirations for a family. If you do get married, you're allowed to show up with your spouse to wherever, to Juma, to Muslim events, to any place. And is that not flaunting your straightness? Is that not being public about your sexuality? Because being straight is a sexuality.
You know, it's not just the rainbow ones that are the sexualities. Straight is a sexuality too. So it really grates on me when people say like, oh, you know, you can be gay but just keep your sexuality private. Straight people don't keep their sexuality private, so why should I deserve to get to say that I have a wife and bring her to Juma and, you know, attend a khutbah and attend a halakah with her just like anybody else. Just because I chose a wife instead of a husband doesn't mean that I should have to keep my sexuality private. You know? Yeah. But I get what you're saying in terms of like your sexuality shouldn't, you shouldn't have to consider that with how you treat a person. You know, if somebody says, if somebody, like if I say, if I mention my wife, that shouldn't change how you treat me. Versus if I mention a husband, stuff for a lot, you know, but that shouldn't change how you treat me. I absolutely agree. And that, yeah, you shouldn't investigate somebody's sexuality. Like, you know, there's so many Dawa bros now who will watch some video of somebody and be like, should we all say what we're thinking? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't. You should mind your own business and have some haya. Because, yeah, it is nobody's business. But if somebody, you know, everyone does deserve to get to talk about whoever they're going to get married to in a halal way, you know, they have to keep within the Muslim bounds. But I also hate when they push theirs on me. You have to be, I'm not quite following Pink. But yeah, no, that's just that always pushes a little bit of a button of mine when people are like, yeah, it's fine to be gay, just like, you know, why are you publicizing your sin or why are you publicizing it for people? And I'm like, well, straight people are pretty public about being straight, aren't they? Oh, when they push their sexuality on you. Yeah, I mean there is something to be said about it's not my favorite when somebody is aggressively like makes their sexuality their personality. But if that's how somebody wants to live their life, then like okay, you know? As long as you're not doing so in a way that it affects me just cuz I find it annoying. Like I also find it annoying when like I don't know, people wear orange because it's not my favorite color. So I find it annoying to look at. Like, again, as long as it doesn't affect me, like people can be annoying. Any recommendations of Islamic queer books? Both of the ones by Scott Siraj Al Haq Kugel are great. The one we're reading right now, Living Out Islam, and then his other book, Homosexuality in Islam, are both great. The one we're going to read next after this when we finish, inshallah, Hijab Butch Blues. SubhanAllah, I changed my life. I love that book so much. That's great. Trying to think. Among the Eunuchs by Layla something. Oh gosh. Here, let me just pull. I have a whole. Sorry, I'm shaking the cameras, y'all. I have a whole reading list. Some of them I've read, some of them are my to reads. So I'll let you know which ones are which. Where is it? Sorry, I've got a bunch of note cards here. Haha, here it is. Okay. Among the Eunuchs by Layla Jagiella. That's her last name. We Have Always Been Here by Samra Habib. That's one of my wife's favorite queer memoirs. Queer Muslim Marriage by Imam Ludovic Mohammed Zahed. That one's kind of hard to get a hold of because it's out of print. But I've got a copy. It's good. Queer Jihad by Adhire Jama. I've not read that one. I do have it on my shelf. I just haven't gotten around to reading it. With Respect to Sex, Negotiating Hijra Identity in South India by Gayati Reddy. Another to read. Oh, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you as well. Yeah, all of you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jazakallah khair for joining. Please, yeah, head out. Yeah, we've also got to head out in about 2 minutes here. Um, Sexual Ethics and Islam: Feminist Reflections on Quran, Hadith, and Jurisprudence by Kesha Ali. There's a bunch of basically Kesha Ali is a great like queer Muslim or progressive Muslim scholar. I don't know necessarily if she's queer. And Farid Essek also has quite a few like both just good authors to read in general. Let's see. The Story of Lut and the Quran's Perception of the Morality of Same-Sex Sexuality by Amri Jamil. The Veil and the Male Elite, A Feminist Interpretation of Women's Rights in Islam by Fatima Mernisi. Islamic Homosexualities, Culture, History, and Literature by Stephen Murray and Will Roscoe. This is not a book so much as it's somebody's master's thesis that I'm trying to get a hold of. But it's listed in the bibliography for homosexuality in Islam. Basically, also, a lot of these, not all of them, but a lot of these are in the bibliography of homosexuality in Islam. So if you get that book and read it, you also just kind of have a reading list, which is kind of cool. But that's one of the ones that I remember being in the bibliography, and I'm trying to track down this person's master's thesis because I want to read it. Queer Visions of Islam by Rosmir Music or Music, maybe. Oh, this is one that's like high on my to read list. Gender Irregularity as Entertainment, Institutionalized Transvestitism at the Caliphal Court in Medieval Baghdad by Everett Rowson. It's a long name. Gendering the Ungendered Body, Hermaphrodites in Medieval Islamic Law by Paula Sanders. Even though we don't love the slur in the title, it's an older thing, so we get it. Inside the Gender Jihad, Women's Reform in Islam by Amina Wadud. Amina Wadud is another one that's just like, read anything by her. Yeah, there's other things on here, but that's where I would start. So I know that was a lot. You sent 200 comments to my live. MashaAllah. High five. What a cool accomplishment. I love that. Thank you, Pink. Thank you for being here and being such a wonderful supporter. I always appreciate you being willing to share your perspective and to be our on-call Quran reader. And now that I have the ability to bring people up, it's not through TikTok, but I have an ability now through Twitch. I can start doing stuff like that again. So, all right, it is 4:01 here, so we have got to skedoodle. But look forward to tomorrow. We will be playing Undertale while we wait for Sky to get fixed. Yeah, we're waiting on Sky to get fixed. I'm gonna keep testing it every once in a while. You'll see me pop up with a sneaky stream that'll say something like, only join if you like lag, and that's just gonna be me testing to see if Sky is back to working again. But tomorrow at 1:30. As usual, so meaning 1:30 or a little bit after, we'll be playing Undertale. And then on Wednesday, if I can get my Baturimus in gear, we should be having another guest, inshallah, for some more like queer Muslim Jewish solidarity like interview discussions. So look forward to that. And then Thursday will be again more Undertale, unless Sky is mysteriously working again. So the kitty and I will say goodbye for now, but thank you all so much for joining. I love you all so much for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you are here on Twitch, we are going to go, excuse me,
We are going to go raid a friend, probably Rad World. He's been my favorite person. Goodness, to raid for a while. But if you're not on Twitch, until tomorrow, masalama. Right. We are going to check and make sure that Rad World is live. Because I've made this mistake before where I just hit raid and the person, and then it sends y'all to nobody, and I always feel so bad. So we're just going to double check. Rad World is not online. Oh no. Okay. Well, let's see who is online from my list of people that I raid. Maverick. Let's see if Maverick's online. Maverick is the person who helped me figure out how to do my guest streams again. So we love Maverick. Maverick uses any pronouns. Maverick is not online. Okay, next person. Oh, I really should check this in advance. How about Flying Fern? Do. Oh, yes. And yeah, if you can make it to the Undertale stream, that would be cool, Quill. Flying Fern is not online. Oh my goodness. Are none of my people online? Let's see. Who is this? Princess Barney is online. All right, we're going to raid Princess Barney. Raid Princess Barney. All right. And for those who are on Twitch, Princess Barney is another fellow Twitch streamer. Well, obviously, sorry, my brain stopped working. Is another Sky streamer. So if you are missing your Sky fix while I am unable to play it, you can get your Sky fix here. I'm not sure if that's what they are streaming today, but let's see. Oh, looks like yes, they are streaming Sky right now. And I see a pinned message that says Barney identifies as a spatula today. His pronouns are non-stick, but it looks like his pronouns are he, him, based on that sentence. So we'll go raid Princess Barney, and after that, I'll say goodbye to everybody. So once again, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and ma salama.